To start with, would you like to explain a bit about presencing the heating skies and specifically what presencing means in relation to the climate crisis?
Well, presencing is a word that was kind of taught up really by Dr. Payne, who's working on the project. But it turns out it is a real word. So presencing is a movement that lets us approach ourselves from the emerging future. So it's that notion in terms of relation to climate crisis, it's about mitigation and adaptation. So we're looking really to using art and creativity and culture to presence ourselves both in the moment, but in relation to the emerging future.
Great. And why do you think it's important that we engage in a creative way with the climate emergency, and that the arts reflect and respond to the situation specifically?
The culture and the arts makes us use our imagination, and it's about creativity, obviously, and it's about a human response. It's like the humanities and a human response to the world. So I think it's like the notion that the sciences and the arts are separate is quite a kind of recent notion. I think it's a bit of a construct. I think that the sciences are extremely creative and the arts can be kind of very academic and they to do with the mind and research, personal research as an artist, and the process of making is very, very rigorous and demands a lot of attention. So I don't think that they're two as separate as we think they are. We've made to think they are more recently. So I think it's about reconnecting them, being able to approach being able to humanise the knowledge about climate science and the climate crisis, and to bring it to the attention of people through imagination and creativity, so that they can actually get involved and be involved in the process of adaptation and mitigation.
Yeah. So do you think like part of the purpose of the project is kind of to humanize the science a little bit and bring it to a wider audience and make it a bit more accessible so that more people understand and can respond to the climate change emergency?
Yeah, definitely.
And why do you think that like biophilic design and biomimicry specifically are some of the best ways to do this?
There's lots of scientific knowledge and medical knowledge about well-being and the effects of nature on people's well-being and mental health. And I think really the missing point really is that process. You've got product-driven biomimicry and biophilia, which is copying nature and loving nature, but process-based is more about an internal landscape and bringing internal mindscape into play and looking at the kind of garden of the mind and how that might work.
And how important do you think biophilic art can be in driving changes to actual policy making, for example, in relation to biophilic cities and that network?
So I think it really is more just a question of kind of gathering good practice about what's been happening, how effective it's been, and also adding to that and adding to the argument so that those changes can be made.
Yeah, you kind of touched on this already, but do you think art is one of the best ways to kind of bridge that gap between the community and help social engagement and connect our internal environment to external change?
Effective, but if it's participatory and if it's engaging, and I think we're talking about culture, which is really how people self-identify anyway, I think then it can be really powerful. So if we look at history, we identify people through the culture that they've left. So I think collectively, yes, much more powerful if we work collectively.
Yeah, and you touched earlier as well on the impact of like landscape design in cities on mental health. And do you think that that's a really important part of the reason that we're trying to change how our cities are built and change the dialogue around the climate crisis at the moment?
I think it really can be effective, because the imagination is what brings us all together. I mean, we all have a creative imagination, and we all are involved in art production or consumption in different ways. So that might be kind of watching films, listening to music, or the fashion that we wear. It's all creativity. Doesn't have to be just like a museum quality art painting. So I think it's basically it is a human common factor, creativity and culture and art. So yes, I think we should utilize it and use that in a way that brings people together and enables them to understand the situation more, but understand themselves in that situation.
Yeah.